Hello, everyone. Welcome. Settle on in. As per normal, we're just going to get everybody rocking and rolling here into the webinar. So have yourself a glass of water ready. How is everyone doing? Welcome back. Welcome back if you're coming back. We've seen you before, probably. If not, welcome for your first time. I'm excited to have you. We'll get started shortly, a couple minutes now. Let us know where you're coming from, how everybody's doing. I know this is a bit of a crazy time, but end of the day, hopefully doing all right. I see Calgary in there. Bowmanville. Oh, Bowmanville, you're close to the hometown, Coburg. I love being able to scroll the chat and see where you guys are coming from. That's probably not my favorite part, but it's one of the cool parts that I like. Okay. This is probably just seeing where everyone's coming in from. I saw Maryland very quickly, North Carolina, Chicago. I think I saw Connecticut. It moved really quickly though. Ottawa, Texas coming in. Like I said, if you're just joining us, welcome. Let us know where you're coming from. How is everybody hanging in? It's this kind of gray. It's gross out here in Toronto today. I won't lie, but it's some welcome rain. We've had some very humid days, but it's been absolutely gorgeous. I've really enjoyed the heat. It was welcome from the gross heat that we were having. Winter we were having, I should say. No word of a lie, 2 weeks ago, we had some rain, some snow. And then now we've skipped spring and it's summer. So it's just the way it's been. You gotta live with it here in Toronto. That's how it goes. A couple of minutes, we'll get started. Hang tight. Hello, Milwaukee. I see you there. I see you. NYC, Toronto, hometown. Whoop, whoop. Thunder Bay. Very exciting. We got Grand Prairie, Texas. I think that's what I saw. My apologies. No worries there. Ireland. Joking me. You're probably not. Just call it like calling you out on that. Washington, D.C., Ajax. Hello, California. New Jersey. Ohio. Very exciting. Philadelphia, PA. We've got happening here. We got India, all the way from India. Our lovely people coming in from India once again. A couple of you have messaged me, and I've heard a little bit more of you guys coming in for this show. It's late for you. I don't do that hour, ever. I guess I will one day, but what happens, right? No. Just 2 or 3 minutes here, we will get started. If you're just joining us, please say hello. Please let us know where you're coming from. The Bronx, New York. Austria. Vienna, Austria. I hope I can read this correctly, guys, or I'm going to have to go get my eyes checked soon. Boston, Massachusetts. I love saying the word Massachusetts. Won't lie. Hello, Leah from Toronto. I saw you quick enough there. Hello from New York, New Jersey. Sheila, I think it was. If you're joining us for the first time, you will, and sadly, I'm very bad with names. It's a given trait. Let us know. How's everybody doing today? Like I said earlier, it's a bit gray, but it was a short week for a couple of our folks down here in the States. That was us last week. This week is just a regular working week for me. Hope you enjoyed that extra day, but on the same side, it was an important day, Memorial Day there. So very exciting here. I see Bruce County, Ontario, Buffalo, New York, Cambridge. This is exciting. Settle in, everybody. A minute or two, we're going to get started. Very excited to talk about preparing to go back. I know this is the hugest question we've all asked. I feel like there's a lot of, there's still going to be a lot of trial and error. I don't think it's going to be something that we learn in the first go around, but we'll dive in a little bit more. Excited to see all of my teacher friends back at work. I know it may be a slow start. Everyone may not get back to work at the same time. It might be a rollout program. It's all going to depend on, governments, provinces, states, regulations. There's so many things. And so at the same side, it's, like I said, it's all in a learning process. So 2 minutes here, we'll get started. Rolling out myself here a glass, guys. I went fancy today. I got some lime and some mint together, mint from my own garden here. Just thought I'd make it fancy for myself. Kind of nice, like a little treat. All right. And I see you reopened June 1. Would like to see more of that chat there. Let's get rocking and rolling. Please settle in. If you're just joining us, welcome. We're going to get hunkered down. We're going to get going here. Like I said, grab a glass of water if you haven't already, but let's get this ball rolling. I'm very excited to chat a little bit further with our special guests. Small intros, because if you haven't joined us in the past, you have no idea who we are. So my name is Ria. I'm an early childhood specialist here at Hi Mama. I've been with them for about 2 years now. And this is, I think we're on webinar number 8 with my colleague Carmen, the community coordinator here at Hi Mama. She's the brains. Carmen? Ah. Brains behind it all. Carmen's on chat, guys, so say hi to her. And ideally, if you have any questions, post them in there. She will be the one kind of communicating through the chat box as we go through. So she is your go-to person there. So don't be shy. Special guest here today. I'm very excited. A couple minutes, we're going to bring Leslie on, but just a small intro for her here. We have a lot of amazing experience coming from Leslie today, and I'm very excited to see, she's coming from New York. New York. Oh, sorry, I really wanted to do that every day. I've thought about this. And anyways, same side. Leslie's coming in from New York. She's got some really cool experience and very much in your shoes. So we're excited to tap into some of the things they've been doing down here at our kids' place and then see what's going on with them. Now, as per always, this face is not the face of legal advice. Okay, just making sure. Okay, everybody, please, please, please. If you're looking for any personal legal advice, financial advice, talk to the right people. If you're not quite sure to look, check out some of what your other centers are doing. And if you're looking for somebody specifically, they might be able to point you in the right direction. But just remember that each state does things differently. Each province is doing things differently. Each licensing person probably has their own way of going about things. So just make sure that you are checking with the right people before implementing something in your center. And if you're not 100% sure, I recommend talking to somebody about it, okay? This is not it, sadly. As my mom would say, this place is beautiful. And I go, oh, thank you. But at the same side, I'm not your legal advisor, okay? We're going to talk a little bit more today. We're going to cover some content before bringing Leslie on, but we're going to talk a little bit about, the ideas around working with young children. We're all very, we're interested to see how this is going to work. I think now we're all kind of biting the bit to just kind of figure out what this is going to look like, okay? And preparing those kiddos to come back, that's a huge piece as well. And we want to touch base on a couple, just some key pointers for you guys, okay, that I think will be very helpful. It's probably something that you have heard or read already. With our special guest here, Leslie, we're going to talk about some tips. They're currently getting ready to reopen themselves. We just kind of want to tap into her process and what they've been doing. So I'm really excited to bring that on. So let's start here with a little bit of content about working with young kiddos. We're all pretty nervous. We're all, I would say maybe even a little excited to get back to the classroom. I wouldn't lie that, the thought of working with a couple of kiddos potentially and putting some more risk out there is not going to be an easy thing to wrap your mind around these days. But at the end of the day, I think there's a couple of key factors that we just have to keep going. And a lot of it will be around, building resilience. And my niece is pro at this. And she's something else. I have a couple of funny stories we can talk about later. We need to rethink about what our normal looks like. Because ideally, and Andy was saying this last week, and if you weren't able to catch our webinar last week, you can actually access it on our blog post page. And he was an amazing one to have on because, we aren't getting rid of this. And we need to work with this now. So we need to make sure that we can make it as normal as possible. But just remember, guys, it's just temporary. It will eventually be something we work through. But we need to make those masks, the social distancing concept for everyone's safety, the children, you, your families, your actual family. We need to think about that in a more of a normal concept, and then it will make things just that little bit easier, okay? We're all together, so it's okay, all righty? At the end of the day, I want to talk a little bit more. I did some reading, and I'm sure you guys have all done your homework. Okay, and I'm sure that you've been all over the CDC website. So Center for Disease Control has given out a couple of big pointers. And it's the idea here is as teachers, it's well, how to not hug a child, because ideally it's in our instinct to hug a child. It's hard to hide your expression behind your mask. So it's things of like thinking about that we have to create normal and normalcy around. So ideally with those young ones, they're saying, don't stop hugging those kiddos, don't stop comforting them. Maybe on the same side, like if a kiddo's okay to have like a little plunk down on the floor with some toys, maybe just not some consistent contact just for your safety, child safety. Ideally here, if you have a spewy Louie, as my mom would say, maybe having some extra clothes. An oversized shirt is really helpful. This way, if you do get some spit up on it, you can take it off. Hopefully, you have an extra one, put it back on. And then this way, you can take that home, wash it, and know that you're safe, your other kiddos are safe, and that kid is safe. Okay. The washing hands routine. This one's going to be huge. We already do this naturally in a center. The washing hands before and after things is always like part of a regular routine. It's a little bit more aggressive now in regards to like, before and after, before and after, before and after. It's going to get, I'm not going to lie, wear and tear on the hands. So um, if you haven't gotten into like a good hand lotion, I recommend. I was the one where once I got through all the diaper routine, slathered it on. Okay. Obviously, CDC is saying that don't put a mask on a child under the age of 2. Like I agree, that just sounds like bad news. Ideally for yourself though, and this will probably come down to a center policy, it will come down to a state or a province policy or wherever you are. If you're being mandated, like obviously work with your center, but I think it will come down to a center per center. And so ideally, like I said, work with your center on what policies best work for you, your families, see where you're at. There's lots of questions around whether you should be wearing masks or not. I think the idea of when it's feasible and for protection and safety. And I think that's like one of the big key things that we're looking at now is that idea around safety. And of course, everybody knows a toddler is not safe. These days, a toddler by far, I can probably guarantee, especially with the nose running, let's cough in your face, like that whole situation I think this will be the hardest area to really figure out. This is going to be a lot of trial and error. For a teacher, obviously step up that hand washing routine, encourage them to be a part of that, obviously, and I'm sure you were before, and now it's just kind of like that extra step. And then, of course, a lot of it is around avoiding sharing of materials. So all of those toys, and that one's going to be a hard one, no matter what, especially if a toddler likes to chuck it. I can just see the truck that used to fly across the classroom, the toddler classroom I worked in, and it flew quite often, and it hit a couple of kids quite often. So at the end of the day, they're recommending that if you do have a kiddo who's playing with some toys afterwards, just kind of pick them up, put them aside to wash and sanitize for later. I know that still might be something hard to work out because, of course, I feel like they don't realize that centers do have a limited amount of materials. But moving forward, I'm sure as adaptable centers are, and teachers are really the ones who are adaptable, we'll figure out a good way to go. Big one. And part of me is actually, I'm not so sad about having smaller ratios. I am sad about the idea that families may not come back right away because of this. Families might have to wait. It's a questionable area, obviously, but on the same side, if you do go back in with those smaller ratios in that same class, take advantage of the time that you get with those kiddos. It would have been a little bit crazier with a full load of class, but on the same side, of course, you do have different responsibilities coming ahead of you. So just be mindful, take that moment, and I think it's going to be pretty valuable. Preschoolers, I love this age. They know what's happening. Let's be real. Maybe not all. Maybe not all. But on the same side, I think this is the best age for letting them be involved in as much of it as possible. But, don't overload them. There's no reason to give out unnecessary information. But on the same side, creating and encouraging them to make the plan and to make it a part of their norm and to just, help them practice it. That is what I think is the biggest key. And I think that ideally having a bit of fun with it, I've seen so many masks where I'm like, I would wear that. Like by far, the fiance wants Bane. I won't lie, that's probably not daycare appropriate, but here he's fine. Anyways, at the same side, I've seen a couple of great ones, and if you have some fun with it, it might make it just that little bit better. one of the cool things I saw here coming out of sick kids here in Toronto was nurses, doctors and nurses, who they had a pin with their picture on it, and that was the picture without the mask. So I thought that that was a really cool and unique way to show that under that mask is a smile. On the same side, of course, we as teachers, we want them to be social. We want them to understand our facial expressions. I think personally, children are going to start understanding those expressions through the mask, especially if the eyes really tell. Okay, let's jump on to a little bit more here with about parents. Parents are going to be your hugest key. And I know many parents are nervous, as you are, scared. We're all allowed to be, and we're all ready to kind of as well move on. So it's like that constant state of, okay. So let's put that aside for right now. Preparing those kiddos to come back to the center is going to start at home. I'm sure many of you are in contact with your families, whether you're doing it through social media, whether you're doing it through calls, video calls, Zoom calls, Skype, whatever it is you're doing. You need to start encouraging those families to help those kiddos practice and make it fun of it, make a game out of it. And then this way, they're not really going to question as much when you start using the same terminology, be on mom and dad's side as well there, or try to make something where everyone can come to a nice medium about lingo you're using. This way, it doesn't feel so abnormal, okay? And especially with those older kiddos, they are going to probably really know what's happening. So ideally, make those masks less scary, and that actually works really well for your younger kiddos. And it's summertime, I'm so pumped to probably spend a lot of time on my balcony, but at least I got one, at the same time, I'm pretty happy to have it. I think taking the classroom outside and doing as much learning outside, of course, time pendant and weather dependent, like there's going to be a lot of things, but having that all come outside. And this way you're not sitting in confined air. That was something Andy was talking about last week as well. And then this way, as much open space as possible, everyone can move around, and it will help those kiddos practice. And mom and dad can do that at home, and you can do it when they start coming back to you. Okay. Last but not least here, pack your patience all. This is going to be a wild ride. Educators are the best equipped for this. I know we all don't maybe feel that way right now, but at the end of the day, those kiddos are resilient. Like I mentioned, they're going to pick up on your behavior as they always do. My niece knows to tiptoe down the hallway when my sister-in-law yells her name the right way. She's pretty smart that way. At the end of the day, though, those kiddos will pick up. So if you are stressed and you are, scared, they are going to feel that. They're going to understand what's happening, and they're going to feel the same way. And that's probably going to lead to a lot more behavioral issues as well. So as hard as it is, we have to check our emotions. That's hard for anybody, and it's going to be difficult. But honestly, it will help you in the long run, especially as the routines become easier. You're going to feel a little bit better. And the nice part as well is that classroom's a safe place. We've all created that safe place in our classrooms. We don't want them to come back feeling that that safe place is gone. We want them to come back knowing it's still safe. And it's still the same with some tweaks, of course. But at the end of the day, safety first all. Safety, safety, safety. That's for you. That's for your kiddos. That's for your own children, potentially. Okay? And we want to make sure that the children's families, your extended families, anybody who is, at a higher risk, you don't want them to have that risk. So let's think about those all of being the safety first, and make sure that we are putting those children first. Okay? But at the end of the day, we want to be safe. And speaking of safety, I want to bring on here Miss Leslie, coming, like I said, all the way from New York. Hello, Leslie. Oh, Leslie, we can't hear you. I can't hear you, my dear. I'm so sorry. Might need a microphone. That's okay, though. She's coming from New York as she just gets all set it up. Queens, New York. Still love this. She's opening up in July. And then she's going to tell us a little bit more about, can't hear you yet, Leslie, but that's okay. Little microphone. We'll get her on. No worries, her folks. She's getting her staff ready, and she is getting her center ready. And I can't hear you quite yet there, Leslie. If you want to pop off, pop back on. It's okay. just to maybe try it again there, and then we'll bring you back on here. She's getting pretty creative. I'm excited to chat with Leslie. I am pretty excited to hear what she's up to and how she's doing. Excited. Welcome, Leslie. Welcome. She has a dramatic entry, everybody.
Of course it didn't work when we needed it to work, right? But I got my Hi Mama hat here. I'll take it off so you guys can see my face. Hi.
Excited to have you. Leslie, let's jump right in. We have some great questions for you today, but tell us, start with you. I want to hear a little bit more about you. Tell us about Our Kids Place. I'm excited to see what you guys are doing down there.
All right. So first, let me just say that I am so deeply appreciative of you guys having me on this platform. It really is so exciting to be amongst the Hi Mama elite. So my name is Leslie Peters. I am the educational director at Our Kids Place. We have 2 locations. One is in Rosedale and one is in Nassau County, which is in Hewlett. So one's in the city and one's in Nassau County. We are a 30-year-old preschool. We'll celebrate our 30th anniversary next year. So we're really excited about that. And in 2017, we got our NACE accreditation.
Wow.
When
That's not
I
easy.
am not, no, it's not. When I'm not working, I am a PDI specialist for teachers that are trying to get their CDA, and I'm also a pre-K class observer. And trying to take advantage of this pandemic, I just started my own consultancy firm. So we're really excited about that.
That's amazing. I love that. You want to know what? Sometimes that little push, might have been that push to get you going over the edge for your company. So that's amazing.
I had to find something to do.
Okay, anybody else, if you're bored, become a consultant. No, I'm joking. Anyways, let's jump in. So tell us a little bit more. You're reopening July. Enlighten us on your preparation process. We know this is going to be different everywhere, but just kind of the steps that you guys have taken so far to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah, sure. So at the kind of inception of us deciding that we were going to open, one of the things that we did was we went directly to our governing agencies. So for Nassau County, that's the Office of Children and Family Services. And for the city, that was the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And we kind of went to them, asked them to give us as much guidance as possible on what reopening was going to look like. And then we took it 2 steps further and did the CDC guidelines. And I think you mentioned that. Yeah. And also the American Association of Pediatrics. And that was super, super, super helpful because they had like really good questions that people ask all the time, and sure that you acknowledge things are going to change every single day. But there's, at least for us at our center, there are 6 things that we know for certain we're definitely going to do. 1, we're going to check temperatures. We haven't decided if it's going to be 3 times a day, twice a day, once a day, but we know we're going to do daily health checks and check temperatures. We know that as much as we love bringing families into our facility, we're going to stop them at the door. And we might even consider implementing curbside pickup and drop off. I know that was really, really sad for us because we love having families come into the facility, but we want to make sure that children are safe. The next thing we thought about was taking out a lot of the porous materials. Sand and water, we're going to stop that for now. What else did we do? We took out dramatic play clothing. And we'll be replacing some of those things with maybe activities and materials that children are going to be able to play with, and then we can sanitize very quickly. So I don't know if you guys use Pinterest, but Pinterest is my life.
Every educator's life.
So we've been doing like little research about like children creating their own activities so that they can play with it, and then if they want, they can take it home afterwards.
And that's really smart. I like that.
Yeah. And then room arrangement. We thought about room arrangement. Of course, everyone's thinking about that, but ways to promote social distancing. at our kids' place, we nearly died
Oh,
because our classrooms are like our life. We love it. We took forever to create the way the space is going to be, and to move it was sad, but we
yeah.
want children to be safe. So we'll be using classroom arrangement very differently moving forward. And then shoes, I think I mentioned shoes, and that's about it.
I love that. So there's two things that I kind of took away from that. Well, besides your list, like your list is, I think, pretty standard across the board for most
Mm-hmm.
people changing. I love that you guys created a think tank. Like that to me, and I assume it was this you and your whole staff created within that think tank, or was that something that was like just like upper management, presumably?
No, so we actually, on every level,
Mhm.
ask different teachers and different office staff and office and teacher and like teacher leaders to be a part of this think tank.
That's
And
cool.
then after we did that, we then shared it with another set of teachers and administrators to kind of go through that. So actually, prior to this, I was going through it with our office manager, and I was like, "Do you like this?" You know?
I like that, and you know too. It speaks to me as well. Like you guys are very inclusive of what your staff are thinking and saying, right? And of course, their safety first. You're high on that end. So then, with of course, sad to see the classroom change because that, like you said, I was just like, it's home. You make it such a personal space. With it said, though, what's tips for bringing those families back and preparing them? Because of course that curbside pickup is very much a happening thing, but what are you guys talking to your families about right now to get their balls rolling too?
So when we initially thought about how we were going to explain this to families, the first thing that even before we announced, parents were saying, "What are you going to implement to make this different? What are you going to do to make sure that our kids are safe?" So when we created that think tank and when we created those policies and procedures, we wanted our parents to be able to have access to that, read that,
Mm,
feel comfortable with it. So that's actually something that's going to be shared with our families so that they can read. Um, and then on top of that, you as a center, I feel like, at least for us, we want to be super transparent with our families. We want them to be able to offer suggestions, offer feedback on those policies so that ultimately we can do the best for the kids, right? You
yeah.
want to stay at the cutting edge of every piece of information, although everyone's telling you have a healthy diet, but you're talking about kids here. So you want to make sure that you're on the cutting edge and you're making the most informed decision when you're talking about policies and procedures. And
Mhm.
parents need to be a part of that process. They need to know that they have a voice. They need to know that they have an input. And that was really important uh, for us to make sure that our families can view the rules, the policies, they know what's happening, they know what the expectations are. Our policies right now, that may change, we're trying to
Mhm.
condense it, but it's about 5 pages long.
Still not
And
too bad.
you think so?
It's,
I actually think, I'm
yeah,
like, no one's gonna read this. It's too long.
it's true. I'm not gonna lie. You might get to page 2 and then they might skip to page 5, but
Yeah, so we wanted them to have access to every possible question. We highlighted potty training. We highlighted, just little things that people don't normally think about. We wanted to have that information, at their disposal.
I love that you thought to bring your families into that. Like you're building your community out. You're taking everything they're saying with the think tank. Sorry, I almost said tink tank.
No worries.
Anyways, it's Thursday, right?
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of questions. What were some of the examples? You don't have to be very, very specific, but what are some of the examples that you were getting in your think tank? Just a lot of people are asking for the audience here.
Oh, so um our our staff has found that parents are asking for like what lunches are going to look like.
Okay.
Is it going to be individually packed or is it going to be family style?
Hmm.
Some parents have asked me, linens, Miss Leslie, are you going to be changing out linens every single day, or are you going to just send in one linen and just make sure it doesn't touch anything else?
Yeah.
Which we're still deciding on, because that's kind of hard
Process.
asking families to do five. 5 sets of linens. But if we have to do it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
What else have we been asked? Um, some of the teachers brought up caddies. Like, are you going to share writing materials? And we decided that we're
Mm.
not going to share writing materials. We're actually going to have kids with their own caddies. As much as we want to promote sharing and being nice to your neighbor, we're
Yeah.
going to have to at least do that for right now.
That's true. And I think that's the big thing. A lot of people are a little worried. It is just the right now. We will get back to that sharing. We will get back there. This is a temporary state of normal. With that, I've had a couple of really good questions. So I want to veer off into those, and then we're going to get back to our regular list here. But
No worries.
what about the safety measures that you've been putting in place for your teachers? This has been a huge one. This is from Jacqueline. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like this actually goes really well with your think tank. So
Right. So our teachers had the opportunity to make the whole list of the policies and procedures. So we actually were able to have a pre-K teacher on there. We were able to have our associate educational director in on it. We were able to have another like office staff member on. So everyone was able to bring a lot of their ideas to the table.
yeah.
Changing of shoes for the staff, coverings, aprons. These are things that some of the teachers brought to the table. Is this going to make you feel safe? Is this going to make you feel comfortable? And we kind of just worked collectively to create these very specific set of rules that are going to make ultimately the staff feel comfortable. You want to validate their feelings. You want to
Yeah.
make them feel safe working in their environment, because ultimately if they don't feel safe, that's going to impart on the kids, right?
Yep.
So we want to
Exactly.
make sure that our staff feel very comfortable about it.
Did you have, this is a question from Letty, and I might, Letty, forgive me, I'm going to like kind of twist it a little bit, but she had asked, like, how did you address some of the fears and concerns about returning to work? Did you have any staff who were, really upset about returning to work in this regard, or was everyone pretty on board for the most part?
When we initially thought about opening up, we did have staff that were nervous about coming back in,
Yep.
and rightfully so, right? People are
Yeah.
nervous. There's tons of unknowns. You just don't know what's going to happen and how are you going to make yourself comfortable coming, and then on top of that, taking care of kids.
Mhm.
So when we tried to address the concerns, when we wanted to open up in March, we put it out there to our staff. We asked them, do you think you guys feel comfortable? Should
Mhm.
we open? What should that look like? And then from there, we kind of gauged that, hey, we're not ready to open up. And
Okay.
then we decided to do it again in July. This time, when we put it out, our staff were receptive, but still, a lot of them had some nervous feelings. Actually, just on Tuesday, I had one of my teachers, she said to me, Miss Leslie, I am excited to come back. I want to work with the kids. The only thing that's freaking me out is the subway. And that's a valid
Oh,
concern, right?
yes, very much
Yeah.
so. That's keeping me out
So
of the office, let me tell you.
so for me, I immediately thought, I said, okay, how can I address her feelings? How can I make her feel comfortable? And how can I validate what she's saying? So immediately I thought, Leslie, what do you know about the train system? What do you know about what they're doing? So I happen to listen to the news almost every night. New York One is my thing. For people from New York, New York One. That's where I get my stuff from. So I remember them saying that they closed the trains off at 1 o'clock in the morning and they open it back up at 5. And I, for myself, personally took solace in that, because I felt like, wow, they are able to really clean these trains. I feel a little bit more comfortable. So I shared that information and that knowledge with her. And from there, we kind of talked about the idea that, maybe it'll be okay. Maybe we can try it out. Maybe it's not going to be so bad, because these are the steps that the city has been taking to make sure that you can get to work safely.
Yeah. I like that you you took that time to validate how she felt and saw that as like not just kind of her concern, but a concern for yourself, because you were able to put yourself in her shoes basically. And then that, because of that, you found a way to help, I hope, ease some of that stress for her.
Yeah, I hope so as well. I think so.
I think so as well. Let's jump in a little bit more. Let's say we're getting back into the routine of things. Have
Okay.
teachers or parents even been talking about regression? I know this has been a huge one. A lot of people are talking about it, and it's definitely one of the ones I wanted to bring up. What has been your thoughts? I'd have to say before I let you dive in, I talk about my niece all the time. So if you haven't heard, it's my niece, my nephew. My niece by no means has not regressed whatsoever. She is so ready to move on with life. She's like, let's just do this and be done. My nephew, on the other hand, is like, what?
Factors that play a part in you think about developmental regression,
Yes.
right? You already mentioned that your niece is like, let's go.
Yep.
There is no regression. And then there's other children that are feeling anxious. They are
Yes.
going to regress, right? So there's a few different factors that play when you think about developmental regression. You have socioeconomic status. Do children
Yep.
have access to certain materials, devices, so on and so forth? Then you have familial structures. Is there multiple siblings in the household? Is it
Yep.
an only child situation? And then you have on top of that, which is really important, special services, right? Children that were getting speech, children that were getting ABA services, and maybe that didn't continue. Maybe that ceased when, for us, in need support to the families. That's at the end of it. You know already children regress from June to September. There's already that regression over the summer. So
Yep.
now children haven't been in school. YouTube channel together where there's tons and tons of content for kids to be able to view different stories, different math activities, different literacy activities. And from there, again, we're trying to support families to be able to narrow that regression as much as possible.
I love that. I love the idea. Yes, it is inevitable, like you said, over the summer. It's what happens, and it's typical for most children. But just by helping to narrow it with your families, and of course, working one-on-one, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then, talking about that, of course, a lot of kindergarten parents are a little antsy about kindergarten readiness. How do you think like the whole situation has impacted any of that school readiness? Because of course, right now would have been the time they were doing that. So,
Okay, I'm just gonna let the plane.
hey,
I'm
that's
sorry
okay.
if you heard that. Is family support from the centers and from the educators. When you think about school readiness, we already know that children weren't in school for 30% of what would have been the academic school year. They were there for 70%, and they missed out those 4 months of school.
Yeah.
So how do we support families to continue learning at home? I think as a society, we tend to push academics, but learning is not just academics, right?
Yep. It's a little
So
nice combo.
you have to be able to pat parents on the back and say, hey, you're doing a great job. These are some household things that you can do at home to support learning. Cook with your kids, measure out the flour, spot letters outside when you guys are driving. And these are ways to get your kid ready, and also give them chores, give them independent things that they can do. I need you to help me set the table. I need you to help me tie my shoe. I don't know how. Maybe we can sit and learn how to do it together. And these are things that people take for granted, but that's a part of school readiness, right? They have to be able to be independent, and people take for granted those things. Just quickly, one more point. I know for us, when we think about accepting new children into our kindergarten program, we prepare our teachers. So I think that's a very important piece here now. We have to prepare our teachers to accept children that are be coming in from all different walks of life. We don't know what stressors were at home. We don't know what their home life was like and what supports they had. So you want to be very, very intentional in your instruction and in your delivery when you do accept these children when they do come back into your facilities. And then on top of that, you want to make sure that at the base of everything that you're doing it with empathy, because you
Yep.
just don't know what they went through.
That's very true. And I think part of that actually can tie in as well for parents. Like you're of course we are worried about the children. Don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, they're the future. But on the same side, I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about the support for the families to do that. And that's what you by just recommending these things to do, you're actually easing a lot of anxiety for mom and dad at the same time. And I love it. That's fantastic. Tell me a little bit. I want to jump ahead on our questions here about what you guys were doing specifically to support your families emotionally as you've been preparing. Like I know you've tied them into your think tank. Was there any other tips there that we can share with the audience?
Yeah. So what we did was when we got out of school, we immediately started putting together schedules, tips, strategies, um, activities that parents can do at home to keep kids on a routine, but also keep their sanity as well, right? If you're not an educator and you're trying to work from home, the kids are like running
Yeah.
all over the house, and you're like, how do I handle this? So we wanted to be very intentional in supporting our families and letting them know that they're doing a fantastic job, and their expectation is not to be a teacher, but to support their kids as much as possible in whatever way that looks.
Mhm.
Um, what we also did was we created a webinar series, and I don't know if you guys kind of want to mimic that, but that went over really well for other centers. Just yesterday, we had a webinar series for our families, and they sign on
Oh,
and they get an opportunity to talk with the different people that we bring on different topics, and it's been super supportive and super helpful. We've been able to share a lot of different resources in a very familiar setting, because let's be honest, not every parent wants to talk to someone on, let's just use an example, the New York City hotline for mental health. It's called Be Well. You might
yep,
not want to call, but you might feel really comfortable speaking to our office manager because you talk to her every single day.
yep.
So maybe our office manager can share with you the Calm app or the Headspace app, and they may feel more comfortable talking to you and getting that information from her as opposed to getting it from, a hotline. But we offer those strategies as well too.
Of course, you want to share because you never know where it might lead. But on the same side, I totally agree. I feel like a mom or a dad, you're bringing them back already, and you probably don't even realize it. I have a big one, a big question. It's of course about the masks. We always hear about this. It's a little off topic of what we were clearly talking about, but at the end of the day, at least here in Ontario, they've recommended for us like we wear them out and about. There's a big one. Are you guys going to be wearing the masks? And if so, what are your plan to like normalize that for the kiddos?
All right. So this is another hot question.
That's
You're hitting
another
me with
one.
all the hot questions. No,
I
I'm just
love it.
all right. So in New York, yes, we were mandated that whenever you go outside, you have to wear a mask. And I think on top of that, any child over the age of 2 was asked to wear a face covering. It
Yep.
was recommended, or a mask. So for us, when we decided to open up on our anticipated opening day of July 6th, we know that our families are, when I say families, our families are going to be creating some sort of face covering for the kids to come into the school, and also our staff are going to be wearing face coverings as well. I immediately thought about the first couple of days of school when I started thinking about how I was going to normalize this. And when I plan with my teachers for September, what I always do is I always hear, or I always tell them, try to make the children feel comfortable in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Try to give them a sense of ownership within that classroom. And for us at our center, what that looks like is creating their own cubby tags, creating their name tags, creating artwork to be showcased. So we just took that and we said we're going to do it with masks. So in the first
Ah,
couple of days of school, the children are going to be making their own masks or face coverings. They're going to be able to decorate them. Of course, we're going to try to use non-toxic materials, things like maybe stickers, and let
yep.
them decorate their own mask. And that within itself is going to be one of the ways to normalize it, because these kids are going to want to showcase all their beautiful work.
I love it. They're going to be so proud too. They
Exactly.
always are. I love it too. It's perfect.
Exactly. One of the other things that we did was um, we started thinking about our own staff. And for
Mhm.
us, when our staff does something, I can almost guarantee that our students are going to want to do it as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of
So
course. Yep.
just yesterday, we had a parent that said, I can't get her to do anything. All she wants to do is listen to her teacher. She doesn't want to listen to me. So we know that they want to emulate their teachers as much as possible. So we're going to use that to our advantage. So teachers are going to be following good practice by wearing those masks. And in turn, hopefully that will help our students to feel very comfortable with that as well. And just a last point,
Mm,
um, anytime you think about introducing a new topic to a kid, I know as an educator myself, I always create a lesson plan. I
yep.
always try to find a story, and I always have a conversation with my kids. I try to be honest with them. I try to tell them what's going on, why we're doing something, and that works because kids are resilient and they understand, right? You said it at the beginning of the webinar. You said at 3 years old, they know what's going on, and they
Yep.
do.
Yeah, they do.
So we want to make sure that we provide a story, a lesson plan, and maybe even a training. How do you wear the mask? How do you put it on?
It will tie it together, especially for when I think of the way you're saying, like the whole idea of having the story, having the conversation, doing something about it. It touches to as well all the learning styles, and then this way too, you're not only having them highly involved in it and making it very normal, but then on the same side, you're also making sure that each of them have learned something in their own special learning style way. I want to jump, Leslie, Q&A. This is the
Okay.
popular questions coming across here. So a couple of little random ones, a couple ones that are really exciting. But I think they're all really great questions. So one of the ones that I thought was super, super interesting was, are you having all of your staff tested for COVID before returning?
Um, at this particular moment, we are still determining that.
Yep.
I think OCFS, and those are the governing agents, and
Yep.
Department of Health would be the most integral in us deciding whether we're going to test or not, because we want to hear from them if we have to, and then from there we can kind of make an informed decision. So right now we are definitely in the process of thinking about whether we are or we aren't going to do that.
Got you. Okay. Maybe keep us posted on that
We
one.
are
Yeah.
definitely.
Let's here go with Rita. She wanted to know, because and I'm sure you guys have run into similar situations. I don't know if you guys take really young babies about
Hmm.
breastfeeding moms, but has there been anything like any anxiety that you've had to ease over that guy? Because especially if moms are, I don't know if they would come in for you guys or not. We used to mom would pump and leave, but and some centers they allow mom to come in. How are you guys dealing with that at all, or?
So for us, we serve children from 18 months to 12 years
Gotcha.
old. We have after school programming as well. We don't really um, deal on a day-to-day
No.
basis with parents that are breastfeeding and coming into the facility. But just off of the top of my head, if the child is interacting with their mom every day, then they're in close proximity
Yeah.
already, right? So maybe we can screen mom, and if she follows the screening process and checks all the boxes, has been symptom free, then
Yep.
I would feel comfortable. For us, we're going to have a quote unquote isolation room.
Mm,
And maybe she can sit in there and breastfeed there if she feels comfortable. And then, we do our sanitizing and cleaning afterwards. But we don't want to completely cut the cord, right?
no, yeah.
We want to incorporate families in whatever way we can. And as long as it can be safely done, I don't see why we wouldn't want to do it, or at least try.
Exactly. I love that, at least with that, like I know you guys, like you said, you're 18 months and up, but the effort and the ideas around it, there's plenty. And this way you guys can, people who potentially do have breastfeeding moms at their center, there's something there for them. Fantastic. So we've had this absolutely cool question coming here from Nicole that I want to pop in. And she goes, throughout all of this, what was the most important thing that you've learned? Can you share with others how to make sure that we're providing good experiences with their families and their children? Nicole, nailed that question. Wow.
The most important thing I would say that I learned is the importance of being flexible. Let's be
Yeah,
honest, right? Um, when you think about a teacher, and a teacher that has been doing things for a really long time, it is so easy to get into a routine and you get stuck and you're like, no, we've been doing this. We have to continue doing it because I think it's right. And there's no wiggle room.
mm,
But COVID showed us that we had to adapt at the drop of a hat. So I think flexibility and being nimble and being able to pivot as quickly as possible to serve our children is one of the things that I learned like very quickly. I always joke with my staff just recently. I said the hardest that I ever worked was that week when we had to turn our entire program virtual.
mm.
Like, I have never worked so hard. We literally changed every concept that we ever thought about virtual in the matter of days. But we did it. And then, and had we not been flexible, we don't know if, things would have gone differently. And thank God we were able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of ties back on how, you know, we do as educators build our own resilience, and then we teach the kids without even knowing it. And here you guys, like you said, you turned around in a whole week and made changes. I have
Mm-hmm.
one last cool question here coming from Casey. So she loves your idea about the masks. She just wants to know about like what sort of materials are you looking at, and of course like the washing. Like, is this something where you guys would sanitize? Do you put in the washer? Like, there's huge questions about that just in general, but what are you
Hi,
guys doing?
Casey.
Uh-oh, she called you out.
Thank you for that question. That was an amazing question. So, we are definitely thinking about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
In New York, there's kind of been some guidance on what face coverings can look like. Like, you can use a scarf, you can use just some cloth material. So we have been thinking about the different kinds of ways that we can create masks with children, and scarves were the first thing that came to our mind. Why? Because they're easily sourced, and you can use a lot of different materials on it. So for us, we were thinking about fabric paint so that children can write their names on it. And, they'll be super excited to do that. So, and then it can go right into the washer and you can wash and dry it. So for us, we thought about that. We also were looking into, we just recently found one. It's a silicone mask where we,
Oh,
as the center, can actually sanitize and wash it very quickly. We talked about that just a couple of days ago, and that's something that we're looking into. If we can use and kind of source a whole lot of silicone masks.
very cool. Actually, now I want to kind of look that up and see what you can. I like the fact that you can sanitize that as well. Like, it just makes that little extra step a little better.
Yeah.
Leslie, it's been absolutely phenomenal having you on. I've
Thank
seriously
you.
enjoyed this, but before we let you go, of course, well, I don't really want to. Any last words of encouragement, advice, positive thoughts to leave the audience with today?
Yeah, actually someone already asked me that. The
Oh,
biggest thing that you can take away from what we are talking about today
mm-hmm.
is to be flexible,
Yeah,
right? You have to be able to adapt. That's one of the things, I can't say it enough. In order for us to come out of this stronger, you have to be able to bend and flex. to accommodate the needs of your families and your communities. It has been a pleasure, Ria. Thank you so much. This has been so
Been awesome.
enjoyable. We really appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
It was been absolutely awesome having you on. Please, like I always say this, everybody later, I'm going to send like a nice little thank you email to you. But on
No
the same
worries.
side, I always like to make sure, you know, keep in touch with us. That people want to know what's happening. If you want to join our Slack group, please don't be shy here. I want to jump to some shout outs because this is like my new addition, Leslie. I'm bringing this on with you at the same time.
Okay.
I know, I'm so excited. So part of what Carmen and I like to do is we like to filter through the chat, everybody, and she likes to pull and send me out these shout outs. And I was like, I want to make this a section. So because it's important, I want you guys to know. So a little bit of reading, so I do apologize here, but we had here Robert was giving a shout out. Center owners are amazing enough to make masks for the staffs. I know lots and lots of centers are making masks for staff, and I agree. Shout out for that. Tanya, Etsy selling some masks with clear plastic type covering so kids can see your face better. I saw something similar last night, the other day when I was scrolling through Facebook. Sherry, I've taught my kids via Zoom to wrap their arms around themselves, and I wrap mine around myself, and we both squeeze ourselves, and we call it a social distance hug. Sherry, this is adorable. I might cry. I always ask if they got the hug, and then I send them always back a yes when I get mine. And I have to say, every educator out there right now, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing right now, whether you are just working from home and chilling out a little bit, rest, well deserved. Okay, don't take that wrong. Okay. And if you're getting ready to come back into the classroom, if you've been on that first call to come back, or if your whole center is starting to ramp up, you know, my thoughts are with absolutely all of you, and know that we're in this together. We'll get through it. Okay. Time will tell, but at the same time, we always seem to come out just that little bit more ahead. Miss Carmen, this is always a couple of different instructions, so I'm going to let her take the reins here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for spending your afternoon with us. And thank you, Leslie, for the amazing information. We've actually simplified the process for certificates. So I've linked to the template in the chat bar in the blue box over there. All you need to do is click on that, download it. It's a PDF, so you can actually fill out your own information, save it and print it, and you're done. If you have any questions at all, Ria and I are here to answer that. And we will also be sending out show notes as well as the recording tomorrow. So watch out in your inbox for that. We always do highlights. We also link to all the resources that we are talking about. And we have a new webinar hub that you can access. So it's just blog.himama.com/category/webinar. I'll include that in the chat as well. And next week, same time, same place, we're doing Redefining Normal Life with COVID. We want to own it again, make sure we're not scared of it, and, you know, figure out how to go from here. So thanks for spending your hour with us, everyone. And we will see you on Slack for the next 15 to 20 minutes. If you want to join us there with questions, we're excited to connect with you guys. So have a good one, everyone.
Once again, just to remind everyone, stay happy, stay healthy from everyone at Hi Mama. Thanks for joining us today. Take care now.
See you. Thanks so much, Leslie. Bye.
Thanks, Leslie.
Bye.
Bye.